Okay, so we're diving into this moral support idea for men. You sent over some stuff about the Men's Resource Center, and it looks like they're really trying to change the way we think about men and mental health. They offer this moral support instead of traditional therapy, and it seems like it's specifically for men.
Yeah, and they're not just doing like one type of support either. Phone calls, Zoom sessions, and even like text messaging support. It's all about like finding men where they are
Hmm.
and making it comfortable for them to reach out.
Yeah, that's interesting. They even say they'll have in-person meetups at some point. But what I really noticed is the language they use. It's so different than what you'd normally see with mental health stuff, like brotherhood or dominate life again, even mental firepower. It's almost like they're speaking a whole different language.
Right. It's definitely intentional. I think they're trying to create this sense of camaraderie, like a shared experience of being a man in the world today. And instead of all the clinical talk about mental health, they're framing it as a way to take back your life, to overcome stuff and be the best version of yourself.
It's true. It's like they're directly challenging the idea that men have to handle everything alone.
Mm-hmm.
Because they talk about needing to pull in the right support.
Exactly. They want to redefine what strength really means. To show that asking for help isn't weak, it's actually a way to become stronger. And they do it in a way that feels authentic and relatable, too. They talk about their peer support specialists as guys who have been through the fire, guys who actually get the pressures men face because they've been there themselves.
Yeah, that's a good point. That lived experience seems like a big part of their approach. It's not just talking to someone who read a book about mental health. It's connecting with another guy who has walked a similar path and come out on the other side.
You got it. When you share that experience, it builds trust and understanding.
Mm.
And that can be so powerful. It lets men open up and be vulnerable in a way they might not feel okay doing with like a therapist.
Yeah, it's kind of like having a mentor, someone to guide you, because they've already been down that road.
Exactly. And they're not all about just processing emotions either. They talk a lot about practical solutions, giving men the tools and strategies they need to handle their challenges and take control.
And they really contrast that with what they call the pill fix mentality. They say that's so common in mental health today. It's like they're offering a different path, a way to deal with the root causes of struggles instead of just masking the symptoms.
And they're making sure money isn't a barrier, which is huge. All their services are free, so any man can get support no matter what his financial situation is.
That's so important. It makes sure help is there for anyone who needs it,
Right.
regardless of their income or insurance.
Exactly. And they don't offer just one type of support either. They've got phone calls, Zoom calls, tech support, online chat. They're realizing that men are different, and they might be more comfortable with different ways of getting help.
And those 30-minute sessions, it really stands out to me. It seems like they understand that men might not want to commit to long-term therapy. It's about giving them quick and efficient support that they can fit into their busy lives.
Right? It's like a pit stop for your mind. You can refuel and get back on track. And they talk about it in a way that really gets that across. Like these sessions can help you regroup, refocus, and get the mental firepower to keep going.
It's like getting a pep talk from a friend you really trust, someone who believes in you and wants to see you succeed.
That's a good way to put it. And it's not just anyone giving that pep talk. They emphasize that it's always another man who's been through it, someone who gets what it's like to be a man facing these unique pressures and challenges.
Yes, like they're creating this space where men can connect and support each other and break down that feeling of being alone that can cause so many problems.
It's about building a community,
Yeah.
a brotherhood, where men can feel safe being vulnerable and sharing their struggles without worrying about being judged. It's cool how they like focus on the strengths men already have instead of seeing men as like broken or messed up. They talk about resilience and how resourceful men can be.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's like they're saying, hey, you've got what it takes to get through this. We're just here to help you find those strengths and use them.
Exactly. And that's why they're so against that pill fix idea. They think medication can help sometimes. But it's not the answer to everything. It's about dealing with the real problems, not just covering them up.
And they seem to believe that peer support is a big part of that. Connecting with someone who understands what you're going through, who can give you advice and encouragement and help you learn how to handle those challenges.
It's about giving guys hope. When you see someone who's been through similar stuff and they're doing okay, it can really inspire you. You start to think, hey, maybe I can do this too.
So it's not just about helping in that moment. It's about building resilience for the long term. giving men the tools to deal with whatever life throws at them.
Right, and they're doing it in a way that's made for men. They know men have specific needs and experiences, and they're creating this space where guys can feel safe, comfortable, and like they belong.
And they have so many ways to connect, which is awesome. Not every guy wants to pick up the phone and talk to someone they don't know. So having things like text support and online chat is really helpful.
For sure. It's about meeting men where they're at and giving them the support they need in a way that works for them. There's no one right way to do it.
Okay, so we've talked about the ideas behind the Men's Resource Center. Their focus on moral support and connecting with other guys. But let's dig into some of the specific problems men face. The stuff you mentioned a lot of different issues. Work, stress, relationship problems, addiction, and trauma.
Yeah, and those problems don't just appear out of nowhere. They're all connected and influenced by so many things in society.
Okay, so let's talk about those societal factors. We've already touched on the stigma around men's mental health and how traditional ideas about being a man make it hard to ask for help. But what are some other pressures men are dealing with today?
Well, one of the biggest is the pressure to succeed. I mean, financially and in their careers. Men are often still expected to be the main breadwinner in their family, and that can create a ton of stress and anxiety.
Especially now with the economy being so uncertain
Yeah,
and the cost of living going up all the time.
exactly. And then there's that pressure to be a good man, which is such a vague idea, and it can mean so many different things.
Yeah, it's like there are these rules about how men should act, but no one tells you what those rules are.
Yeah.
And they keep changing all the time.
And it can be really tough for men to figure all that out, especially when those expectations contradict each other.
So like on one hand, men are supposed to be strong and assertive, but they're also supposed to be sensitive and caring.
Right. And then there's the whole thing about emotions. Men are often taught not to show their feelings. They have to man up and deal with things quietly.
Which can be so harmful for the man himself and for his relationships.
Totally. When men keep their emotions bottled up, it can lead to all kinds of problems like anger, resentment, depression, and even turning to drugs or alcohol.
And it makes it so hard for them to connect with other people on a deeper level.
You're right. To be really close to someone, you have to be vulnerable. And if men aren't allowed to be vulnerable, it's going to be really tough for them to have those close relationships.
So we've talked about the pressure to succeed, the pressure to be a good man, and the pressure to keep your emotions hidden. What are some other things in society that affect men's mental health?
Well, another big one is how work is changing. The world is more globalized and tech-driven now, and that's having a huge impact on jobs.
Yeah, a lot of traditional jobs are disappearing. And the new jobs that are being created need different skills.
Right, and that can be a real struggle for men who have worked in one industry their whole lives, or who don't have the education or training to do these new jobs.
It can make them feel insecure, like they're not needed anymore.
Exactly, and it can lead to money problems,
Okay.
which can then affect every part of a man's life.
It can put a strain on relationships,
Yeah.
cause housing problems, and even contribute to substance abuse.
And then there's social media and technology, which can be good and bad at the same time.
I mean, on one hand, it can help men connect with others and find support, but it can also make you feel lonely and like you're not good enough.
That's true. When you're constantly seeing these perfect lives online, it's easy to start feeling like you're failing.
And that can lead to anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem.
And it can make people want to escape their problems by spending more time on social media or playing video games.
So it's a really complicated situation with so many different things affecting men's mental health.
Definitely. And there's no magic solution that works for everyone.
Okay, we've talked about some of the things in society affecting men's mental health. But let's switch gears for a minute and talk about solutions. What can we do as individuals and as a society to support men's mental health?
Well, one of the most important things is just to talk about it more openly. We need to stop being ashamed of mental health problems and create a culture where men feel comfortable asking for help.
And that starts with us. We have to be willing to have these conversations with the men in our lives, to listen to them without judging them, and to offer our support.
Absolutely. And we need to stop thinking about masculinity in these narrow ways. We can't keep telling boys and men to be tough and stoic all the time.
We need to encourage them to express their feelings, to be vulnerable, to ask for help when they need it.
And we need to celebrate men who are doing that. We need to show boys and men that there are lots of different ways to be a man, and that being strong doesn't always mean hiding your emotions.
And what about as a society? What can we do to create a better environment for men's mental health?
Well, one big thing is to give more money to mental health services. Right now, there's not enough money or staff for mental health care. And that's especially true for men's mental health.
It's like we're saying men's mental health is important, but we're not actually doing anything to support it.
Exactly. We need to invest in research prevention and treatment. And we need to make sure everyone can afford mental health services, no matter how much money they make or what kind of insurance they have.
And we need to do more to address the root causes of men's mental health problems, like poverty, discrimination, and violence. We need to create a fairer society where everyone has the chance to do well.
You're right. And we need to support organizations like the Men's Resource Center. They're doing incredible work to help men with their mental health. They're providing a service that's really needed. And they need our support to keep going.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges,
Yeah.
the things in society that contribute to them,
Yeah.
and the solutions. But let's come back to the Men's Resource Center and their unique way of providing moral support. What do you think about their model? Do you think it can really make a difference?
I think it has a lot of potential. They're doing something different and important, and I'm curious to see how their work develops in the future. They're addressing a real need, and they're doing it in a way that's both creative and effective.
I agree. I'm really impressed with their focus on peer support and their emphasis on people with lived experience. I think that's a powerful model. And it could reach men who might not feel comfortable with traditional therapy.
And it's important to remember that their approach isn't a cure-all. It's not going to fix every problem men face, but it's a valuable resource, and it's a step in the right direction.
And reminds us that we all have a part to play in supporting men's mental health.
Whether it's having open conversations, challenging those harmful stereotypes, supporting organizations like the Men's Resource Center, or just being there for the men we know, we can all make a difference.
You know, what's funny is we've been talking about all this. I keep thinking about that term moral support. It's a totally different way to think about mental health,
Yeah.
especially for men.
Yeah, it really is. It's not like the medical model, which can feel kind of cold and clinical. This is more about like deeper things, like connection purpose and what your life means.
And it feels like they're trying to connect with those values
Yeah.
in a way that makes sense for men. They talk about brotherhood, responsibility, taking charge of your life, even dominating your challenges.
It's interesting to use that word dominating. It usually has kind of a negative meaning,
Yeah.
but they're giving it a positive spin.
Maybe that's why their approach is so appealing. It's like they get where men are coming from, they acknowledge those ideas about what it means to be a man, but then they show how to use those ideas for good.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, okay, you want to be strong. Great. Here's how to be strong in a healthy way. That's good for you and everyone around you.
And they don't shy away from the tougher parts of being a man either, like being isolated or not wanting to ask for help. But they talk about it in a way that's kind and understanding, not like they're judging or blaming anyone.
It's like they're saying, we get it. We know why you might feel this way, but there's a better way, and we can help you find it.
And they're not just offering Band-Aid solutions. They're talking about real growth and change, learning how to connect with yourself and others, and building the skills you need to deal with life's challenges.
It's a big picture approach, and I think it could really change the lives of men who are open to it.
And it's not all about the individual either. They talk a lot about community, building a support system, having other men around you who get what you're going through and can help you stay on track.
It's like they understand that men often struggle alone, and that the best way to fight that is to connect with others and with ourselves.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's not just about fixing what's wrong. It's about creating something new, something stronger and more resilient.
And they're making it accessible and affordable, taking away those money barriers that can stop men from getting help.
They're saying this is for everyone. You don't have to be rich or successful to deserve support.
And they have so many ways to connect. So men can choose what works best for them. A phone call, a Zoom meeting, a text message, even in-person meetings eventually. There are so many options to get the help you need.
I'm really curious about those in-person check-ins they're planning. There's something really special about connecting face-to-face, being in the same room with someone who understands what you're going through.
I agree. It's hard to get that same level of connection online. And I think those in-person meetings will be really helpful for guys who are feeling lonely.
It's like they're making this space where men can just be themselves, take off their masks, and talk about their struggles, their fears, their hopes, everything, without feeling judged or ashamed.
Yeah, a place where they can learn from each other, support each other, and push each other to be better.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Men's Resource Center and their take on moral support, I'm feeling pretty hopeful.
Me too. They're doing amazing work. And they're showing us that there's a new way to think about men's mental health, one that's built on compassion, connection, and giving men the power to help themselves.
And to everyone listening, we hope this has given you some food for thought. Maybe the Men's Resource Center's approach sounds good to you. Or maybe it sparks some other ideas about how to support men's mental health. It's a big issue with no easy solutions. But just having the conversation is so important. So until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep the conversation going.